Yo,
what's
Keith,
going on?
We are here. And guess what?
We are here. I can see you. You can see me.
You are here. I am here.
If you're on YouTube, they
you
can see us. We're all here.
You know what else you can see on YouTube?
What?
That subscribe button. Mash it.
Mash it. And if you're not on YouTube and you haven't subscribed via your favorite podcast, whether it's Spotify or Apple, I don't know why you haven't hit that subscribe button. It only makes sense.
Yeah, you want it to rotate.
We're two good-looking guys. We're taking callers.
We sound good. I hear sometimes from some of our listeners that we're indistinguishable vocally.
Really?
On the podcast. Back and forth. Who said what? They don't know.
Interesting.
Pair of unlikely friends who sound similar.
Who sound very similar. So, what are we talking about? We're still in our soul foods.
Oh, yeah. Spiritual habits.
Yeah.
And stuff to nourish the soul. And one thing we're going to get into today, we're going to talk about some memorized scripture verse stuff.
Okay.
We're going to talk about a little bit of that. But our icebreaker, what I want to start in with is, what is something you tried, and this is what we'll ask some of our callers, but what's something you tried as a kid that you didn't stick with?
Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to my head was soccer.
Oh, this
right?
is the first. You are the first one. I have had this conversation in the past week with 24 people.
Yeah.
Seriously, in different group settings or personally.
Yeah.
Every single person talks about musical instruments. So you're going to talk about soccer.
I'm going to talk about soccer. So my dad was very athletic, right?
Okay.
High school, played basketball, football, and I think he ran track, if I remember right. No, maybe it was baseball. Anyway, whatever. Went to MU, basketball scholarship, played basketball, right? So very, very athletic, not just really good at one sport, but, and so when we were kids growing up or whatever, it was soccer and basketball that, my mom was solely against football, which is great because I would have been terrible at it anyway. And so soccer, I really liked it. I really liked playing it. But as you got older, and we were in Lee Summit in the Parks and Rec League, and Lee Summit is not like Kearney. It's much bigger, right?
It's huge.
It's huge. And I was kind of getting to the point where, and they didn't have like a lot of the traveling teams that you do now, right? Like you kind of did Parks and Rec, and then there was like a few of those, anyway. And so we were getting to the point where they would start allowing you to do headers and some of the other stuff that they probably don't let kids do now. And it just, like, it wasn't for me anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I liked it, but I was usually a defender and had some decent instincts to get in between the ball and the goal, early on and stuff like that. But I just didn't stick with it. I was like, eh. And then later I found the sport that I really loved, which was tennis.
Okay.
So, yeah. I'm glad I didn't stick with it because I probably would have never found tennis. Like, I would have never kept trying other sports until I found a sport that I liked.
Positive outlook on it.
Yeah. So I'm kind of glad I didn't just keep plugging away at soccer.
Yeah, I think I have a similar. You know how much I love baseball, and I wish I would have stuck with continuing to look for recreational opportunities and put it in the work to keep with it.
Yeah, like post college and stuff.
Well, post 13 years old. I played recreational baseball last year. It was really hard to work into the schedule. I have two kids that play ball. It was really hard to work in. Made it to 50% of the stuff. Like, didn't work out. But
are you going to stick with it this time?
I probably need to no. No, I mean it was so here's what I'm saying. I didn't make a habit of it, and it's harder to add it later than to have had it always been there.
Sure.
Right.
It's harder to start a habit or restart a habit. Yeah.
So I met a guy who was on that team last year that was his 43rd consecutive year of playing baseball.
Oh my gosh.
So he never took time off. He'd been on a team. Been on a team recreationally playing baseball since he was 6.
That's fun.
It was just really cool.
Yeah.
And he was just it was one of those things that he just kept going. Like like you said, a habit that, so every year for him, it's like, oh, I need to find a team,
I could say that about computer games. I'm like 38 years straight now.
Are there seasons to computer games?
No,
like,
not
are
really.
there different?
I mean, yeah, there's some for some,
there
but I'm just
different-
saying I've probably played a computer game my entire life.
Is there competitive, so is there a specific computer game that
No.
that you've had the most longevity in? Or
Oh, I don't know. There's a couple that there's a couple. One I played since it opened. It was an MMO, so big online game. I played since they opened till the close, which was like maybe 6 or 7 years. And then there's another one that I probably played on and off. Like, it's really fun for like a month or two, and then you're like, yeah, this is, I'm gonna go play something else, but I'll always come back to it. I probably had it for 15 years. And every year I'll spend at least 2 months on it, or 3 months. It actually ends up being so what's actually kind of cool. This is kind of nerdy, but if you play games through Steam, it's just an app where you can download games and stuff, pay for games. They'll track your hours that you spend in the game, and at the end of the year, they'll give you a review. Oh, you did all this, which is really cool. And it always ends up being my top played game, even though I don't play it, continuously, right? So it's pretty fun. And I've got a good group of guys that will kind of, we kind of won't talk for a couple months, just kind of chit chat or something like that. And then it's like, dude, we should all play a game, right? And then we'll find a new game and play it for a couple weeks, and then, move on with life, right? And the cycle repeats over and over again. So no, it's fun. 38 years straight as a computer gamer.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine. It's fun. It's fine.
So let's so we talked about stuff that we try to stick with as a kid. What do you do? So really today is really about your spiritual habits, right? That you do that help kind of replenish and nourish your soul. And I kind of want to make a point. I think you would agree with me that going to church, worshiping at church is great, but it's not everything, right? Like if it's the only thing you're doing for your spiritual journey, you're missing out on 80% of what you could be doing to really impact you, right? Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I'd say you're probably barely sustaining a spiritual life, right?
Yeah. And I think for me, if the more when we started to worship together as a family, I started feeling that kind of need or that pull or that push to do something else, right? Just naturally. And I think that comes from coming into worship and not just listening to the music, but reflecting, singing along, reflecting on what the words mean, listening to the sermon, reflecting about the sermon, having a conversation with your spouse or significant other or whatever about it.
It's kind of like exercising, right?
Yeah.
Once an exercise kind of starts to get easier, right?
Yeah.
It's more natural. It's becoming easy. You have economy of motion.
Exactly.
Your muscle memory, your muscle memory kicks in. You have the fatigue isn't there. It gets easier.
Yep. Bodybuilders don't just pump the bar only.
Yeah.
Right? When the bar becomes easy, you put more weight on.
Yeah.
And when it becomes easy, you put more weight on.
I think that spiritual growth is that same way. Once stuff becomes natural and second nature, and you want to push yourself a little.
Yeah. So for me, worship is the starting point, right? And then
because I think there's a lot of accountability in congregational worship, right?
Yeah.
Not like first person like accountability that somebody's going to be like, I didn't see you on Sunday. But it's a group thing.
Yeah, and I think
if no one did it, there wouldn't be a group.
If you're only going once a month, you're missing the point too, right? We were listening, and if you have listened to the show before, I'm doing one of the Bible in a Year podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the guy that runs the podcast says, and he talks about it with other things, but that time on Sunday is like as Adam would say, your appointment with God, right? Like if you make it your gift to God, right? Your offering to
Mm-hmm.
God is to come every Sunday. You pick the church, you pick the hour, or whatever, right? But you go every Sunday, right? And that is your gift, your offering to God, and you don't miss it, right? You go every week, and I think if you start that, you will see some progress in your own spiritual life. If you just start going every week, don't miss it, right? Oh, the Super Bowl's on, we got to clean house for a party. Still going to church, right? Like you just get in that, you're on vacation, you'll watch online.
Well, that's it, right. We have the online option of participating, and you don't just have to watch, especially if you're doing the live stream. You can actually interact and participate live online, just as if maybe even more directly participating, because Christy hosts it.
Yep.
You
can
have
chat and
direct
talk
chat and feedback with others.
Yeah. And look, if you got
no one turns around and hushes you, you don't have to be hushed. That's good.
I've been there. I've been hushed.
I don't like hushing situations.
I was going to say, if you have a job too that precludes you, like you have to work on Sunday, that doesn't mean you can't watch it Monday, right? Like it doesn't mean that on your day off, on one of your days off, you're going to say this time between 8 and 9 a.m. or between 9 and 10 a.m. or whatever, I'm going to dedicate to watching the recording of this week's, whole worship experience. And you're not going to do it while cross-stitching. You're not going to do it while reading a book. You're not going to do it while cooking dinner or whatever. You just sit down, you focus in on that time.
And you work up to that.
I think you'll you work up
small
to
steps, Keith.
I know, baby steps.
Man,
baby
you're
steps.
very specific.
I know. I think that for a lot of people, they'll try church out, and then it's easy for them to be like, oh, this is a big week, I got to do laundry, or whatever, and then not come. And then once you stop doing it, it becomes easier to not stick with it, right? It's like,
yeah, but I'd say if you did one push-up today, you've done push-ups. And if you do 2 tomorrow, that's good. You don't have to do 100 push-ups a day.
Yeah.
For them to count as a day you did push-ups. You can work up to it.
I guess that's
That's
true.
all I'm saying.
I guess that's true. I'll concede that with you. But I would say you've got to make it intentional, on purpose. Same time every week. You're gonna do X, Y, Z.
You're very structured, Keith.
I am very.
You're
structured.
very structured.
I am very structured.
Agree to disagree.
Kids. Having
hey,
3 kids.
I love you. Let's
take some callers and
find
out. Let's find out what people out there think.
Actually, let's find out what Grammy thinks. Let's call Grammy.
Oh.
Grammy.
What?
Are you busy?
No.
Hey, you're welcome to the show.
On Monday morning, I'm doing laundry.
Well, good.
Oh, laundry. All right.
I didn't have
Is Keith? Sounds like Keith's there this morning.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. The children got over their sickness.
Yeah, they my middle one had had strep.
Uh-huh.
That's not good. But she didn't give it to anyone else in the family, which is great. We segregated her and got her on antibiotics before anyone else got it remotely involved in it.
Good.
So we have a question for you.
All right.
We want to talk about something that we'll get into an icebreaker, and then we're going to get into a scripture question. But what was something you tried as a kid, but you didn't stick with?
Well, the piano lessons.
Everybody with their musical. Everybody wishes they were a musician.
My sister and I were 18 months apart, so we played duets and went weekly for piano lessons, and then I taught elementary music, and back when I went to college, you majored and minored, so I minored in music and taught elementary music for several years, and so anyway, if I'd have stayed with it, I might be a wonderful musician like our Judy McElwain at church or Liberace. Who knows?
Man, we were talking. We were talking about the phenomenal pianist accompanist that we have here. Jeez, they are amazing.
They got 3 of them, and they're all really good.
I think when I see them and I hear them, I don't think there's not a part of me that says, "Man, I wish I could do that." I just appreciate that someone can.
Oh, well, see, that's the difference between you and most people,
right? Like I'm just like, man, that is so cool.
Well, at music contest time, the accompanist can make or break the soloist. Sometimes they play louder than the soloist, and anyway, it's important to be an accompanist. Like you said way back when we first started talking about being a follower.
Yeah.
Put the soft pedal down. You're not the one being heard. Anyway, that's the only thing.
Anything else? Anything non-musical, like that you just wish you'd have stuck with? And it doesn't have to be from childhood. I mean, you have 92 years of life experience. It could have been something you picked up in your 40s and gave up.
Probably the sewing angle. I could have been.
Hey, you taught me how to sew. That lives on.
More proficient. I patched overalls. That was my best thing I was doing. I didn't sew for the girls. I had their aunt, make their dresses. My mother was a great seamstress, and I liked it in high school, but didn't stay with it. I have the old sewing machine still.
So it's kind of like I know that's the one you taught me on. So it's kind of like
what you have a Singer?
What brand's your sewing machine?
Singer.
Yeah.
Singer.
That's right.
Oh, Mitchell. Cheryl was here, this weekend, and we went through a closet and a file cabinet and came out with a garbage bag full of things for her to take and run through the whatever. Throw it away. And that Singer sewing machine drawer is full of patches and thread. But what did I teach you to sew, Mitchell?
We made little pockets for rocks. We made rock pouches.
Oh.
Remember, we'd fix stuff. And
I know you always had your rock in your pocket.
I know. So I made we made rock pouches.
I bet you can sew a button on.
Sling them over my shoulder like Indiana Jones.
Okay.
Rock pouch. We made those together. I'm probably the only. I might be one of. I don't know. Maybe Christy. Maybe you have another grandchild that could thread a bobbin, but I don't know anybody. My brothers can't.
No.
I own that skill. All right. Well, let's.
Okay.
Let's get back on track. What we do is get off track,
All
but
right.
we have a question for you too. We were talking about. We wanted to talk about scriptural memorization, and do you what's your take on scriptural memorization? Do you have verses that have stuck with you? I know you and I have talked about this in the past, but do you have favorites?
I have a favorite. I think it changes from time to time whenever I hear it, but I was telling you last week about that, and then we didn't know where it was from, about in my Father's house are many mansions, rooms, because of my husband being a carpenter, and I feel like he's got a mansion, or rooms for us anyway. But where it came from,
Well, and that's kind of something I think you and I've talked about too. Like I struggle with. I know the stories. I've memorized the stories.
Yeah.
I know, but there's so many different translations and iterations of stuff. Like I'll blend translations together, and I can tell a story, and I can give you like Old Testament or New Testament where it came from.
I might be able to narrow down the book within 3 guesses.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But
yeah.
I'm not. I don't have it.
I don't know the.
I'm not
chapter
good at
verse.
reciting.
Yeah.
Reciting stuff.
no.
but I like to add some context to it. And do you have a favorite, Keith?
I don't. Well, I have two favorites. One is whenever I turn on a light, in my head or out loud, I say, "And the Lord said, 'Let there be light,'" and I flip the switch. It's like my favorite thing to do. Most of the time, it's just in my head, but in church in the morning on Sunday, I always do it out loud because I'm usually here by myself, so it works out.
Yeah.
I like when the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon and he's thrashing wheat in the wine press. He's down in the hole in the ground. The angel of the Lord's there.
Yeah.
It's my favorite because the angel of the Lord's like, the Lord is with you, mighty warrior. And like, that's like the last thing in the world Gideon expected anybody to show up and say, where he's like cowering in a pit in the ground. Right? The Lord is with you, mighty warrior. That's my favorite. Hall of Fame, all-time favorite right there. And then my other one that's in Judges somewhere. Right. Judges, it's Judges 6:12. Because I looked it up.
What's your other one? Because I have another one too. Then.
I have another one, and Grammy, you think of your next one. My other one is Exodus, and I just love when it's humbling because the Israelites start complaining about when they're back in Egypt, they had cucumbers.
Yeah.
And I love it because, like...
cucumbers are delicious.
Like, how specific. we lose the big picture idea of where we've came and get narrowed in so specific on our remorse of no cucumbers, right? Yeah. Like, did you not forget the enslavement and the horrific conditions and the situation of Egypt? Did you not remember crossing the Red Sea and, being provided manna and quail, right? But, maybe the quail came after the cucumber comment, but it's in there several times. It's like, man, but we had cucumbers. Yeah. So anyway, I love that. I love that we have the cucumbers.
Well, I have that, since my vision is so poor, I have that saying or scripture, thy lamp is a light unto my feet. Mm-hmm. God, guide my footsteps. How does that go? Thy light is a lamp unto my feet and a
light unto my
light
path.
Unto my way. Something like that. Love one another. Seems like we're stressing in this world all that's going on. Love thy enemies.
My great aunt was very fond of using very quick quips from the Bible to make her point on stuff, right?
Out of context sometimes.
She did have like 11 heat strokes, so but she would, when me and my brother would fight, she'd always say, "Live by the sword, die by the sword," right? So she would just do stuff like that, and you'd be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, all right, we won't fight now,"
Uh-huh.
I do find myself doing the same thing to my kids, though. It's like having the same phrases. Quotes. Yeah.
All right, Grammy, do you have a joke for us?
Ooh, yeah.
Well, I asked you last week, did it get recorded about the fastest runner in the Bible?
No. What? No. Who was the? Wait a minute, Keith. Do you have an answer for who the fastest runner in the Bible was?
Fastest runner in the Bible. I feel like I should know this. I don't know.
Mitchell had a guess last week, but he wasn't right.
Well, we're going to leave that off the podcast. What's the answer? Who's the fastest runner in the Bible?
It's Adam. He was first in the human race.
Oh. Good one.
All right. Well, thanks for taking our call.
Thanks,
and
Grammy.
We love you and talk to you later.
Yeah, love you too, Mitchell. All of you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Man, I hope I make it.
92.
And I'm that awesome.
And can remember jokes.
You know how much awesomer I'm gonna have to get exponentially awesome from here on out to peak at that level of awesomeness.
I know. I think about being 92 and still doing laundry. How many loads of laundry do you think she's done in her life?
A lot.
You know what I mean? Like, I haven't done that many because my wife does them.
Well, we're all friends.
I do the kids.
We're all friends here. I like to wear my jeans 2, maybe 3 days in a row, depending on the season.
Oh, you know the I don't know, CEO, maker, whatever, founder of Levi's says you should never wash jeans. And unless, I think he said unless they get really like dirty, you can wash them. But this was like a big thing a couple of years ago.
Really?
He came out and said what you should do is if they start getting a little funky smell, just fold them up, stick them in the freezer overnight, pull them out.
That is
gets
not
rid of all
right.
of it. I know it's not right. Like so you've got the extremes, right? Where people like wear them once and then they got to go in the wash. And then you got the far end extreme where like the guy that runs Levi's is like, you should never wash jeans. Like, what?
Yeah, you should absorb it with all sorts of body oils and then put it with your food in your freezer. It's terrible.
It's terrible. No, I mean, it's terrible. I don't know why he said it that way, but he did. So, yeah, no, I think jeans are the long pants that I have, if they're not like slacks or whatever, if they're, I'll usually go a day or two wearing them before I throw them in the wash. If they're sweatpants, lounge around the house sweatpants, I might go 4 or 5 days. Like, it might go all week with them.
Yeah.
Because you're only wearing them from maybe 5 o'clock at night to 8 o'clock for me. And then I go to, I don't wear them to bed. So it's like, well, dude, that's it.
Hey, yeah.
That's all the time we have.
Well, it was a quick one.
No, I thought it was good. Well, it was quick for us because we were just having fun.
Yeah, we just had one call.
Yeah. Grammy's great.
So I think I want to encourage everybody to memorize a verse. I'm going to try to memorize where my favorite stuff comes from in Scripture, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why that's so funny to you.
Are you going to try to remember the chapter and verse and everything, or are you just going to try to remember the book?
The chapter and the verse
thing.
thing.
Okay.
Well,
are you going to pick one that you already know? One of
my favorites.
Verses that you already know?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair.
I mix them all together. There's so many different. It's just my own.
The thing is, they're all my favorites, except for Leviticus.
You can't have a bunch of favorites.
Yeah, the whole Bible is my favorite.
Favorite
except for Leviticus.
Favorite means first choice. Like, favorite means
go to. It just depends on the situation for me. Like, I don't have like a, if the situation dictates this, then that's my verse that I like, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
Yeah, we should do some rapid fire where I like give you like situations. And then
what verse would you go to here? It's like you're at a funeral. As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I feel no evil. Like it's gotta happen in a funeral. You can't
Psalms 23.
Right. You just can't be like, but you're not going to be like, you're at backyard barbecue and somebody's like, hey, what's your favorite Bible verse? Lo, as I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall feel no evil. It's like, wait, that's like in funerals. Are you dying? You know what I mean? Like there's certain verses that just go really well with certain situations, like turning on the light switch. What else would you say other than, and God said, let there be light. And there was light. And it was good.
All right.
Fair?
Fair.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. We love you. We'll look forward to the next podcast. And
later.
Have a good one.